It was an autumn evening that was cold, and that's when my life eventually began throwing darkness into the world in patches. My wife, Claire, had been acting as though she was partying with her friends, or, lastly, I suspected so, going out nights, and lying all night wide awake with wine and a not-watched film as its keeper. We'd been dating for 7 years, long enough to be familiar with each other's daily routine, habits, and quirks. Tonight, all that was put behind us. On the phone, we were being too snappy. There was more than a nervous laugh. And again, I ignored it because I wasn't grown up enough to be reading between lines. She rolled in at midnight, cackling like a sorority sister, rolling into town at midnight one night out. She was pink-cheeked, rumpled hair, and smelling of other people's aftershave. My stomach was in knots with it, but I could not help just sitting around just doing nothing and instead just smile and act like everything was fine. Claire leaned onto the couch, removed her shoes, and glared at me darkly. "You had fun," I said to her, setting my wine glass on the counter. Yeah, it was like totally great tonight," she said, breathing too hard, too high, higher than normal. "The girls and me, we just had so much fun, just cocktails and jokes, no wild—" I nodded, observing. "Good to hear." The longer the night progressed, the more I'd been observing her firing anxious looks in my direction, hardly at all, and clutching her phone to her ear, clenched in a white-knuckled grip. Already I was allowing doubt to seep into my head, but I wasn't there yet to make a choice. I did struggle with it. That wasn't precisely my forte. Not yet, anyway. Instead, I merely closed my pursed tight lips and listened. And other than that, religion had kept our relationship in good health and with a smiling face. Or at least I believed so until today. The following morning, Claire was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, whistling to herself as she prepared breakfast. At least twice the phone rang, but she held on to nothing. Zipping across the room, I just couldn't resist myself. My breast thudding against my own heartbeat, I grabbed the phone and punched in the code. We'd been playing with secret codes, a symbol of trust today, which was a contemptible joke of monumental proportions. The messages were these: "Great night last night? Still have your hand on me?" My eyes had been clenched reading the series of messages late one evening from one who'd been calling her M, and photos, Vibe Budget Hotel, Claire smiling with cocktail and other alone. My entire life imploded around me then. Betrayal was a mental blow to the stomach that left me flat. I put the phone back where I had originally put it, struggling to keep my grip on sanity. Anger would arrive later. I had to make something of it then. A conspiracy. Claire returned to the kitchen, none the worse for wear from any awareness of what I'd discovered. She kissed my cheek and pushed a plate of eggs into my hands and leaned forward and gave me a smile as wide as ever. Why was it? Why was she beautiful after what she'd done? The previous days, I'd had a ghost in my house, listening, watching, occupying space. Something that I'd assumed was an isolated error had been of greater importance. Claire and the man, M, had been dating for months. Months that I'd assumed were ours. Temper had been seething beneath my skin, but not yet boiled over. My purpose, however, was collecting evidence. I pulled the car off the road so that I could record it all, the texts, the photos, even the receipts that she stuffed into her purse so carelessly. My scheme fell into place with cold calculation, and with it was a sickly sense of power. Even outside the house, I did not alter that nice husband. I prepared her favorite dinner, chuckled at her jokes, and even planned a weekend getaway. The two of us alone. Claire was losing her hair, honor behind the shame. She did not know that I was planting seeds in her weaknesses. My choice of the week, though, was the weekend retreat. I rented a remote mountain house with views in every direction. Claire just was so egocentric, chattering about how she'd never had to travel that far. I started making plans for us ahead of time, thinking through all the details about not taking my camera equipment along, a new board game that I'd been getting some opportunity to play. She never asked. Evening was a fairy tale to realize. Or if not, than at least to pretend. We dined around the fire, wine sipped, recalled our lives past, danced in the light of stars. But I was busy mentally, computing maths of the final move of my plan. The following morning, I informed Claire that I would be going out shooting some landscapes and asked her to stay in bed. She was delighted at the idea of burrowing further into covers as I loaded up equipment, being hidden. Only, still did not shoot landscapes. Rather than that, I had configured the cabin cams to display for me only whatever I wished to see. Claire slept right throughout the night until I suggested to her that we go for a walk after I had informed her that I had seen very pretty things somewhere in that area. She was in a bad mood initially, but changed later. We spent a few hours on the woods trails. I could barely recall the betrayal in 2 hours, just in time. The moment we entered the cabin, Claire's phone kept ringing. She looked at the screen, her face flashing with rage. "Work things out," she snarled, swiping the messages away. I knew better. I prepared dinner that night, and she consumed it greedily, and her wine glass was refilled the moment she'd consumed a whole one. She laughed wildly out loud, the worse for wiser and better none for the tempest brewing within me. The moment she stood up to pee, I grabbed the phone off the kitchen table and uttered the following to the man. "Stop this!" And I cut the whole conversation. Them all. The moment we came into the house, Claire was fine, laughing to herself. Then after she began tearing open her purse, she wasn't laughing anymore. She was repairing it open with her frantic fingers. "Where is it?" she screamed at me, shaking. "What is it?" I asked, like insane. "My wedding ring," she whispered, sobbing tears down her cheek. "Oh no," I said to her, tracing honey-sweet, sad syllables on my lips in mimicry. "Whenever did you have it?" She swore at me, her face contorted in disgust and shame. "I don't know. I must have lost it." I had lost it, naturally. The ring, a long-promised one to one another, now used for stalking revenge. I did everything the next day. I had written an essay, tidy computer print, of everything about her infidelity. Text messages, pictures, even a receipt from a shopping mall. Nothing was omitted. I left it on the kitchen counter so she couldn't attempt to deny that she'd read it. She read it and turned white. "What is all this?" she stuttered. "The truth," I said to her. "Something you've been lying about me for weeks now." She fought in words, in reason, in accusation, but I stilled her with an upheld palm. "I don't want explanations, Claire. I want you out of here." She cried, tears leaking. "Here, please, let's clear things up. I'll do anything." "It's too late," I snarled. "You made the decision. Now I'm making the decision." I'd already spoken with a lawyer. I would be divorced, and the sooner the better. My way. The papers that had been shown to me would give me the legal right to it all. The home, the car, even the joint account. Claire had not been trusted. She cried as she packed her things into her bag, quietly, but pangs of guilt did I ever feel. She had ruined our marriage and our trust. This was revenge. I got my life back a few weeks later. I began again. Claire did not exactly have her life together. Her love boy was nowhere to be seen, leaving her to fight on her own. We were boycotted by Mutual, turning sides as soon as the same thing in real life occurred. She lost it all. That night, on my porch in my truck, where a whiskey glass quite literally sat next to me in the cup holder, I sat and I reflected on the months that had come before. All still ached, searing pain that never really healed. But something was different now. Victory. I had taken my life back. I would no longer be shattered. Claire's laugh no longer intimidated me anymore. Instead, came my own soft one, not built on venom, but courage, freedom, and sweetness and bitterness of closure.